Well, we kind of knew how that one was going to play out, but they fought, they gave effort, but they were, in the end, just too much. The Oklahoma City Thunder were for the Sixers. But tonight, hey, another thing to really point at here, VJ Edgecombe is showing us some stuff. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers postgame show live from the Xfinity studio, along with Kyle. I'm Devon Bree, the president of basketball operations. Thanks to all of you for checking in here as we hang out with you and recap what we saw from the Sixers and the Thunder tonight at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. We'll get to the player of the game soon. We will also talk about the unsung hero a little bit later and check in on our bets. How did we do tonight with our bets? Well, we'll update you with the record later on in the game. But let's start off with the main thing, Kyle, as we look at things here for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, 39-33 on the schedule. VJ Edgecombe showing a lot of improvement here with this basketball team. And the Thunder, in the end, for this particular game, just way too much for the Sixers. But I think, and I know you're right, make sure everybody, after the show, go read allphly.com, Kyle's recap, because a lot of it is about VJ Edgecombe and his game best, 35 points, his new career high, 37 made threes tonight, shouldering another game, especially with Quentin Grimes now out, a heavy load against this Oklahoma City Thunder team. But what he's really doing is, because we felt this was going to happen, it was just a matter of what was he going to show against this really good defensive team that throws a lot of different bodies at him. He is the focal point. How is he going to react to it? How is he going to handle all of that responsibility? And we got our answer and a lot of things to really build off when those other players come back.
Awesome game. To shoot 50% from the field, 7 for 15 from 3, 35 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists against that team. And that was a version of the Thunder. They played well. That's not like they gave you like a C- game. Like Jalen Williams came back and played awesome. Shai was not, he was in cruise control. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but he didn't need to be because other guys are making shots and they're spreading the ball around. And so it's not like, oh, he had a bad game. He's just subdued. And VJ getting chased around by Lou Dort for most of the night. Guys like Alex Caruso pitching in as well. No spacing to be had inside the arc where he's fighting for every single point he can get inside the arc. To ultimately end up with the night that he had, if you would have told me he'd be capable of that in his rookie year against that team with the supporting cast he had tonight, I would have been like, what else happened in this rookie year? Because this was a hell of a performance from him. And you're right, Devon. I think what you're seeing are steps or signs of improvement. You're seeing him work on things and change things about his game that were, hey, he doesn't do enough of this, or he's not good enough at this, or hey, maybe he'll get there one day, but he's not quite there now. When we talked about him in May, June, even July in Summer League and early in the season, there were possessions in that game where one that we talked about during the game was went downhill, left side of the floor, draws 2 defenders, drop off to Dalen Terry, ball goes out to the perimeter, VJ relocates to the corner, gets his feet set, hits the 3 in the corner on a relocation, and it's just like the instinct to do it, the execution of doing it, super impressive. They're playing physical defense. They're one of the most physical teams in the league, if not the most physical team in the league. A lot of people like to complain about how they're officiated because of that. Generally, they commit a lot of fouls. I did think they got away with a couple tonight, but good job of playing through it by VJ. But to go 7 of 15 from 3, and a lot of those are coming in the second half when we're watching during the game. End of the third quarter, he's played the entire third. He's hands on his hips, hands on his knees, like, no. Somebody else take this final possession. And then Nurse rolls him back out to start the fourth quarter. And he scores 10 points in, 3.5 minutes, including a 3 where, and you pointed this out, and I thought you were absolutely right, Devon. I didn't think he had the legs to make a 3 at this point. But the form, the mechanics, so base, release, getting it off at the peak of his jump, all that's perfect, makes the shot. That caps off a run. It forces a Thunder timeout. So for him to have the endurance to be there, to him to have the presence of mind to keep all the different mechanics of the jumper intact, I think that showed a hell of a lot. You sprinkle in the mid-range stuff. You sprinkle in the runners and the floaters that he had to hit tonight. He hit absolutely everything he needed to in this game. And I think most importantly for me, he started this game slow. And we've seen him at times, admittedly, when Maxey and Joel Embiid and some other guys are available. Mm-hmm. He's 2 for 6, and he's missing some threes. And it could have been easy for VJ to say, you know what? I'll get into more of a playmaker mode. I'll get other guys involved, and I'm not going to chase the game as a scorer. But he clearly knew tonight that the only way the game would be watchable, let alone close throughout the night, is if he kept his foot on the gas. And yeah, like anyone who's coming in here is mad that they lost by a lot. I get it. But this is a game we knew they were going to lose. It would have taken a borderline miracle.
Yeah.
So this game to me was all about what is VJ doing with this opportunity? What type of growth are we seeing from him as he gets these opportunities to be like the guy? You're the face of the team right now. There is no Tyrese, no Paul, no Joel, no, not even Quentin tonight, not even Kelly Oubre tonight to help him out. And I thought he passed this test with flying colors. And when you consider how poorly he played against OKC earlier in the year with Maxey alongside him, tremendous game from him.
Yeah, so we're going to make VJ Edgecombe our player of the game this evening after that performance. Once again, 35 points, which was a game best, 7 for 15 from 3, had 6 rebounds, 4 assists, just under 40 minutes by 31 seconds, and still just 1 turnover against this physical, tough defense of the Oklahoma City Thunder that Kyle pointed out. So rightfully so, VJ Edgecombe, the player of the game tonight, and continuing to pass these tests. And who knew that this was going to be the type of test that he was going to have in his rookie season, where we knew about the injuries with Joel Embiid. We knew that Paul George, quite frankly, would have some injuries to keep him out, but we didn't expect and account for a 25-game suspension where he had to level up and play a certain way with his absence, and then Oubre and Maxey with their injuries now. So when you look at how he has been able to keep the Sixers' heads above water here during this stretch where, honestly, let's just call it like many of us were. We did a play-in show because we were, and they're still very much in that play-in area, but they're only half a game back of the 6th seed. Behind, I believe it is right now after tonight, the Atlanta Hawks still, who have been just playing tremendous basketball overall, and the Sixers are 1 game back of the Toronto Raptors, who are playing the Utah Jazz currently. So we'll see how things play out there. But that, with all of that being said,
barn burner Pacers Orlando, by the way. We're waiting to see what's going to happen at the end of that one.
So all of that is just what has he been able to do since those times where it was one after another dropping out of it, where we had to have those tanking conversations where as much as we talked about it with Kyle and his theory, VJ Edgecombe wasn't letting that happen because of what he is doing along with Quentin Grimes at that point as well. So to see this tonight, to be able to pick up from where he left off the last time in OKC where it wasn't good and have this type of game, just a tremendous performance by the young guy to do this against a veteran team. Even if and I don't care that a lot of them were taking cruise control types of possessions, they're coming in. When you watch that substitution pattern that Dagnall was putting out there, it's Hartenstein's on the floor for 6 minutes, then he and Cheddar out there for a total of 8. Then Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams, the backup big man, comes in, and he's playing a certain amount of. Wiggins is in, and there's just so many fresh bodies coming at him, and he had an answer for the most part for all of it. So hats off to him for how he's figured some of these things out. And I think, Kyle, the next part of it is because of where they are. And right now, before we have a final for Orlando, before we have a final for Toronto, Atlanta's blowing out Memphis, so that should hold. And Miami did lose to the Spurs tonight in a blowout matchup there as well. They're going to be in the conversation here in these final now 10 games, everybody, for that 5th, 6th spot. So it's 5 through 10 now that we're looking at for the Sixers. And what's important here is before they even get to the playoffs, how is he now going to play down the stretch when you do get Paul George back on Wednesday for the Chicago Bulls? Nick Nurse said he has nothing holding him back, so we don't have to worry about any ramp up. He's out for 25 games. He'll be back against the Chicago Bulls, Paul George, on Wednesday night. So he gets one of the players back with some help there on Wednesday against the Chicago Bulls. Maybe Quentin Grimes with the illness is also back on the floor for Nick Nurse's team. So VJ will have possibly 2 players back to help him out.
We haven't caught this illness yet that's gone around the locker room. So knock on wood.
Derek, hope you're all good, man.
Derek, stay safe down there.
Stay just like keep Joel away from Lou Dort. Keep Derek away from that locker room where everybody's getting ill. So the importance now coming down the 10-game stretch is he going to stay? Even though there's going to be a natural sense for him to let these other guys cook, you need to stay aggressive. You have shown that you have grown and figured some things out as the lead ball handler, as the guy with the defenses has you at the top of the whiteboard. You're going to drop down on that whiteboard just a little bit. However, they see what you're capable of, VJ Edgecombe. So now they're still going to throw. You're going to get their best every single night. I don't want to see him simply handing things back to them because of the nature of they're the older guys. I'm going to be a little passive here. I'm going to let them do their thing. We need to see him stay aggressive out there and add to whatever it is that we're now going to see from those other players, where there's a natural sense of urgency because of they know where they are in the playoff standings. They know how many games are now left during the season, where they have to go out there and have a final finish for them to hopefully stay in that jump into that top 6 and not fall in that play. And if they do, 7, where you're at least hosting that first home game, where you can possibly just play a home game, win one, and wait to see what happens and figure out who you play in that first round. Kyle, I think it's important that he keeps this type of mentality.
100%.
He doesn't have to go out there and get 35. He doesn't have to get 38, but there will be nights where he does have his hot hand and it leads to a 35 or a 38, but he needs to be now, I think, in those high teens where all of them are in that number. And especially if Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey on the floor, sometimes Paul George is simply going to be 13, 7, and 6.
He's going to be a corner spacer,
15,
guy on the wing,
7, and 6.
One pass away that you have to pay attention to him. But not
Edgecombe needs to
guy.
be the one taking the now 18 to 19 and the 20.
And I think at least on Wednesday, I would expect that you're still going to get aggressive, high volume VJ, because Paul is not someone who's going to come back specifically and just like, I'm going to get 25 shots up, right? He's going to feel his way into the game and back into the team. I know that he's been practicing, and this is not like an injury layoff, so I don't think there should be – you got to have your game legs and your game lungs and all that, but this is not like, oh, man, he's going to be struggling because he's been out of shape and sitting on his butt for the last 2 months. That's not going to happen. But I do think Paul naturally is willing to say, VJ, the floor is yours. Like people saw, if you guys have not seen, there was footage from Shoot Around this morning of Paul George, VJ Edgecombe going through some drills and workouts, and Paul kind of instructing VJ on some little like tricks of the trade as a mid-range guy, as someone, attacking as a shooter. And so he sees VJ for what he is. He understands that VJ is one of the future foundation pieces of this organization. I also think Joel is savvy enough to know that as well. And he's always been someone that encourages young guys and other people around him.
And you saw the trust
You're
was
open,
there.
shoot. And so I think if Joel is able to come back on Wednesday, I would expect that he should be able to come back on Wednesday. We'll have some updates from Derek on him when we talk to him later. I still think a lot of it is going to flow through VJ. He's going to be the guy with the ball in his hands to start these possessions. So whether it's a dribble handoff or a pick and roll with Joel Embiid, whether it's a 1-4 flare action with Paul and they're getting him involved in that way, he should still be an integral piece of this offense. And to me, like the featured guy for stretches of the game. And I think tonight is what happens when you tap into all the different things, because I think the worst stretches of the game for VJ and by extension the team were when they just said, hey, we're going to clear out the floor and ask you to try to win in isolation. When they did some more of the stuff they do for Maxey, which is set a pin down and he's coming off of that screen and catching the ball off movement, use Iverson cuts, get him rolling a little bit, use him as an off-ball cutter. Those are where he can be really dangerous and leverage his athleticism. You also minimize his weaknesses as like a ball handler, and he's got to still, put weight on his frame and get stronger so he can draw more fouls and things like that. But as a, more two-guard style of player, he's already got a lot of the ingredients that you want. I think the shooting this season has been ahead of where we could have expected when you consider the volume of shots and the type of shots that he's taking. So To me, no matter who's on the floor, he's got to be hunting his own. He's one of the best players on this team already. He's one of the most important players they have for the long term. I love that he's gotten this mini opportunity late in the season to be the guy or one of the main guys after playing off of Maxey, off Embiid, off of George for most of this year. And now it's time to get everybody back on the floor and see what the fully realized version of this team is. I'm excited for that, even though this has been kind of an up and down, joyless stretch to some extent. I am still excited to see what this team can be if everybody's on the floor together.
So when you talk about that video that was out there earlier with Paul George tutoring VJ Edgecombe and showing them some of the tricks of the trade, the thing that, of course, was a big part of that was just simply the footwork of how to get to the spot legally, then get back to the shooting spot, and all in that motion of getting that mid-range shot off. And then, as you were saying that too, I was thinking about how, and I know I jumped in and said something about Joel showing the trust in VJ Edgecombe already. I think one of the things where Embiid, and I think you can, jump in on this one, is because even when he sits there, and we saw how much he liked Jared McCain when he watched him when he was down for a while, and he came back and he not deferred to him, but trusted to give him those shots. Paul George last season, same thing for Jared McCain, especially that Orlando game that always jumps to the top of mind when we talk about Jared McCain. And I think with all the time that Joel has been sitting on the sideline now because of this oblique injury, seeing VJ Edgecombe, already knowing and trusting VJ Edgecombe, but then seeing it, having these big
30-point games in a week, and then he leads the win along with Quentin Grimes in Utah. Like, that's a different.
There's always that thing of players sit on the side. Some players like to come off the bench. They like to be the sixth man because they like to be able to read things and see how it's going on the floor. But when you have a star player like Joel Embiid, he's already the star. His thinking now is, his thinking now is, I see what this kid is doing. I know now that I can maybe do this. Bounce pass to VJ Edgecombe in traffic, get him a finish at the rim to make things a little bit easier for him. But also the dribble handoffs, the bounce passes that we see and saw with Tyrese Maxey. We continue to see those once those two come back, that he believes and have faith and trust in what VJ Edgecombe is capable of doing as an offensive player within the structure of the team's offense, but also one that he knows that if things get a little jumbled in the flow of their offense, this kid has shown us, even while we have been out and sitting on the sideline, that he has it, and he has made that necessary step that we can trust him when he's out there on the floor to hit big shots, make the right passes, finish defensively on certain plays, communicate the way that he has been as the focal point of the Sixers offense. So just a lot of stuff that you're going to see, I hope, again, staying aggressive where the vets will have trust and faith. And one last thing before we go to break is just going back to the Paul George part, even back on his podcast, when he said in the summer when VJ was on the podcast, keep doing you. Keep doing you. And he just takes these guys under his wings and continues to help them. So player of the game, VJ Edgecombe. It came in a loss, 123-103. Yes, in there, 39-33. But I think we all agree that the main takeaway from this one tonight, the main thing,
that kid's good, man,
is that guy is pretty good, man. And it's going to be important for him to stay aggressive for the final 10. When they get to the playoffs, we'll reevaluate when they get to the playoffs. But for the final 10, he needs to do all of that when those players do, in fact, get back out there on the floor. Quentin Grimes, Paul George, hopefully sooner rather than later. Joel Embiid, Kelly Oubre is supposed to be reevaluated tomorrow or Wednesday, and then Tyrese Maxey next week with his reevaluation. Yep. So all of the things that we talked about being in a tough spot for the Sixers, VJ Edgecombe, though, a nice little footnote. And it's crazy to say that for the number 3 pick that's going to make the first team all rookie, but a little footnote of we didn't want the Sixers season to play out this way with those players out, but we're learning something about the young guy at a big spot where he's keeping them and their heads above water in the playoff picture. When we come back, we will get to more of the game, the unsung hero of the night presented by Togo, and so much more as the Sixers fall in this one, 123-103, but a big night from VJ Edgecombe and his improvements. We're discussing it all. And a little update in the NBA with one team that has completely given up on the play-in. We got to tell you about some transactional things for that team a little bit later.
Right here where you were going
on
with
the
that.
PHLY Sixers postgame show. All right, if you're looking for something to do and hang out with some of your loved ones, friends, family, got to hang out at the great place, Parks Casino and the Excite Center at Parks Casino. One of the many things I love about my casino of choice. And Parks Casino is Pennsylvania's #1 casino. It's close to Philadelphia, very easy to get to, located in Bensalem. Take the Street Road exit off of I-95 and the PA Turnpike, and boom, you are right there to check out Warren Zeter's. Yes, Friday, March 27th, 7:30 at the Excite Center for the World Tour 2026 is right there because this is the best venue for music headliners and some of the best comedians in the world. They all come together at Parks Casino, where you can get tickets at parkscasino.com for all your shows and these great events there. You can also check out the amazing beer garden, get some food and all, hang out before the show. Parks Casino, this is how you win. If you're going to be there, you must be 21 and over. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, spring is here. You know what time that means. You get an 80-degree day. You get a snow day. You get rain. It's all over the place. And you know what comes with all that, with the change of weather? Annoying pests, insects, rodents, ants, spiders, bees, all those unwanted pests that you haven't invited them in. They just welcome themselves in. And that's why our friends at Evans Pest Control, they come into play running their spring sales event right now for new customers where you can get 5% off general pest control services when you book your first treatment. All you have to do is use promo code SPRING5 when you schedule that service. It runs through March 15th through the 31st, and it applies to standard general pest control treatments right now. So if you're looking for reliable protection this spring, reach out to Evans Pest Control, schedule your service, and use code SPRING5 to save 5% during the spring sales event. Once again, 15th through the 31st of this month. Learn more at evanspestmgmt.com. Back here on the PHLY Sixers postgame show, 123-103 is the final score. Sixers fall to the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll talk about Jared McCain a little bit later because he came out with a purpose here tonight against his former basketball team. Let's get to the Togo unsung hero of the night as the Sixers fall in this one. But another decent debut, the Togo unsung hero, the leader in operations outsourcing, Marjon Beauchamp. Wanted to ask you about with him, and a lot of it's been talked about with his outside shooting. We knew about the athletic ability, the defensive things, running the floor, finishing at the basket. He had some crazy plays overall where it's like that one went out of bounds. He was trying this and all, but again, this is more about takeaways of what these players can do, especially the young players, and where they can fit within the rotation. 6 boards with his 13 points. And he knocked down 3 threes, and that's a big part of the development that you hope to see from him.
Yeah, I will say I think it's one that if you just look at the box score, you're like, how the hell did either of these guys conclude that he's the unsung hero? But I think he was 3 for 8 from 3 in minutes that I think were actually meaningful. A few of those you're getting up at the end as the game's out of reach, and it's okay, whatever. We had a chatter even who was like, how the heck did he get up 18 shots? Like, that seems crazy, especially when you consider Justin Edwards only took 7. You know, Watford, who had a lot of mismatches tonight, takes 10. Like, for him to be second in attempts is a little wild. But for me, I thought the process was good on a lot of those plays where he's filling the right lane in transition and getting a transition 3, moving into the right spot in a half-court possession, just hands up, I'm ready. And I think defensively, certainly wasn't a great team effort. And I think they played hard. It's just, they're outgunned. But I think you can see a guy who is athletic enough to hang while also being willing enough to make the extra rotation that, frankly, like some guys just don't make, right? We talked in the pregame, Devon, where I think OKC, what really sets them apart from a lot of the league is if they play 10 guys in a given night, 8 of those guys are like, I will make every rotation type of players. And that's really uncommon with some guys are just offensive players. Some guys are just not built like that, not wired like that. And the competitive culture they have is part of why they succeed in OKC. But I think Beauchamp could be one of those guys because that's his calling card, right? He's got to defend. He's got to buy in on that end of the floor because the offense is what it is, right? He, regardless of the context behind the 3 for 11, he goes 3 for 11. He had 5 turnovers by the end of the game, a couple of those on just brutal miscommunications. But I think the way I look at it as, if he's your guy at the end of the bench instead of, Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon type players, if Dalen Terry, same thing, if he's your 14th, 15th man, and you're getting these guys who were not good enough to be, first round pick, big contract type players for other teams, if you have them on minimum deals and you can grow them as they're still young enough and, there's enough untapped potential to turn them into something, I'm okay with that. Those are the types of guys I like taking flyers on, like the Barlows of the world. And I think we're probably going to talk about Barlow tonight. He's been a little disappointing for me, and that's another subject. But yeah, like put enough of these guys at the end of the bench, and one of them will eventually emerge as a rotation option. I've been pretty pleased with him relative to expectations. If he was in the right role instead of playing a starting role, taking 18 shots, I think most people would probably be pretty happy with what he's offering as a two-way guy.
Yeah, he had a couple of, what was that right there, going to the basket type of plays, miscommunication, as you said, where a ball just kind of sailed out of bounds, where he thought a teammate was going to be, but maybe a little bit more, he should have been a little bit more under control. But similar to what we're talking about with Edgecombe, this is just about, can this player be at the end of the bench maybe next season? And does a 5-minute stint here during this 10-game stretch, can he jump in there and spot duty and just give me good minutes while I need a break from Paul George, let's say, once he returns in these final 10? Can Marjon Beauchamp stand out there and show out and do some stuff and not make mistakes and hurt us in his minutes out there on the floor? And I think that's what you're looking for now with Beauchamp, with Terry, and even still with players like Barlow and Walker and sometimes Martin, as we watch these players form into the end of the bench rotation, at least for now, and see who can also make a difference next season and maybe stick around for this basketball team. So just an okay night. And again, it was in a loss. We expected it. So what are some of the takeaways that you can pull? What are some of the small things that you can pull out of these that could be helpful in the end? And when we're talking to a two-way player who was a guy who was a lottery pick, has jumped around to certain teams, but it's always about where can you find your place in the right spot for you at the right time of your career. And maybe that is with Beauchamp, because he got the start tonight because Quentin Grimes is out with the illness. But once everyone else comes back, we may not see him on the floor at all. Justin Edwards
he might not even dress for that matter.
Exactly.
They've had to dress these two-way guys and use all their days because they just need bodies on the floor.
And as we've seen where Justin Edwards has been hot these last 2 games now, he has not reached double figures. While he had a better shooting night, 3 for 7, 2 for 4 from 3, just 8 points in those minutes. And it's not to knock Justin Edwards, it's just saying that these role players are going to have their points where they have good games for 3 or 4 nights, maybe a week, and then they'll have a week where they don't play at all because of the fact that they're not really bringing what the head coach and the coaching staff needs overall out there on the floor. But wanted to acknowledge what Beauchamp was able to do, and that is, 100%. Again, improving on this three-point shot, 3 for 8 when it mattered, missed this final 3, but the 13 points, that's important for Marjon Beauchamp as a two-way player for the Sixers. Now they're getting the best out of their two-ways here at the end as well with Beauchamp and
it's been a good
Dalen
year for
Terry.
Two-way contracts relative to what you're going to get from the average two-way guy. And as always, it's important to look at it as, he shot 5 for 18, but what he's doing or what he can offer, it's more important to think about what can that guy do when he's the 9th or 10th man in the rotation, when they have everybody available. Because, if you're trying to win games with Marjon Beauchamp as your secondary scoring option, you're going to have a bad time. When all you're asking him to do is fill lanes in transition, switch from 2 through 3, maybe 2 through 4, depending on the lineup, run hard, play hard, communicate, like use your voice too. That's a big one. he will be in a much better position to succeed. And if he's just an option, not the option, at like 9 or 10 spot in the rotation, that's a good place to be, because at least it's, we say it all the time, it's a wing. The Sixers need wings. Justin Edwards, if it's him, great. I don't really understand why Justin only took 7 shots tonight. I'm not really sure what happened there. I have to go back and dig into that a little bit, because it does feel a little bit funky that he somehow played 25 minutes and took 7 shots. I know VJ dominated time and touches as part of it, but Justin's got to assert himself a little bit by comparison.
Yeah, kind of got lost and shouldn't have gotten lost in that one. So, Marjon Beauchamp, our Togo unsung hero, presented by Togo, the leader in operations outsourcing. Let Togo handle the work that gets in the way of your work. You call the plays, we execute. At Togo, visit harnesstogo, that's TOGO.com. All right, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Sixers side and also Jared McCain. Welcome back. Jared McCain in this homecoming, the ovation, the reaction from the fan base, his reaction early on when he was having it at quick. And we'll get to our NBA standings update.
Tyrese's face.
That was the best. Yeah. We'll get to the Sixers in the standings, the update of where things are, where they stand in the Eastern Conference a little bit later as well. Sixers fall in this one now 39-33 on the season. Next up, the Paul George-led Sixers, we think, with VJ Edgecombe against the Chicago Bulls.
Excuse you, the VJ-led Sixers that Paul George will be a part of.
Be a part of with Paul George against the Bulls on Wednesday. We'll talk about much, much more when we get back here on the PHLY Sixers postgame show. All right, sports fans out there, we are experiencing the tournament right now. And as fans of Philadelphia, you know you can't leave early except for when you're using the Bet365 app, because leaving early has never been safer. If your team is riding high and goes up by 10 points at any point of the game, Bet365 will pay you out right there on the spot. It's that simple, where winning is everything. Download the app to take advantage of their $365 promo, where all you have to do is make a $10 bet. Win or lose, $365 in bonus bets only for you right there. So when you download the app, you're all good. Sign up, use code PHLY365. When you do, gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Please gamble responsibly. Must be present in Pennsylvania. $10 minimum deposit required. Bonus bet wager excluded from returns. New customers only. Must be 21 plus. Time limits, minimum odds, and terms and conditions apply. In-app only. Void where prohibited. Starting something new can be very terrifying. I know, you know, many of us have experienced that. And before this show ever existed, I remember thinking, what if nobody's going to listen? What if nobody's going to like what we do? Well, sometimes you just have to take that leap. And when you do that, great people, especially when you're in the business community, the right tools with Shopify, the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses worldwide, and about 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. from major brands to people launching their first idea. Shopify gives you everything you need to start and grow. And look, right now, you can run with all the things that you have going on with hundreds of ready-to-use templates and Shopify's built-in AI tools to help you out. It's time to run those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for a $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/allcity. Go to shopify.com/allcity. That's, once again, shopify.com/allcity. Back here on the PHLY Sixers postgame show, Kyle, Devon, and Bree. Make sure you hit the like button. Like and subscribe to the show. Leave a comment as well. We appreciate all the interaction, as always. Tell a friend to tell another friend. Spread the word about the PHLY network and, of course, the PHLY Sixers podcast here. 3 p.m. shows, pre and post games, as well as we hang out with you for the season, regular season, hopefully the playoffs, long run in the playoffs, and most certainly in the offseason, where things will yet again be interesting for the Philadelphia 76ers, no matter the end result for them. So sign up at allphly.com and become a member. Like and subscribe to the show, and hang out with us here on the show.
And by the way, speaking of our show and everything that's going on around here, baseball is coming back too, Devon.
Baseball is back.
The Phillies boys gearing up this week.
You got Jamie Lynch, Anthony Gargano, and the newest member of not only the PHLY family and the Phillies family, Corey Seidman, they begin on Wednesday with their first podcast as the season gets underway on Thursday for the Phillies.
All you baseball guys and girls are fired up.
Already, we're ready to go.
And then there's me. But I'm excited for the show. I'll tell you that.
Starting off with the Texas Rangers. So make sure you check in on the PHLY Phillies show with Jamie, Cuz, Corey Seidman, now a part of the PHLY family and the PHLY Phillies podcast. So it should be a blast. 12 o'clock, I believe, is the start time as I just go back here. Yes, 12 o'clock is the start time on Wednesday. So please make sure you head in. It's a big season. Get a new contract for Christopher Sanchez. He got paid, Christopher Sanchez.
Yes, he did. I don't pay much attention to baseball, but I did see that big dollar amount.
Yeah,
good for him.
Zach Wheeler's supposed to make some starts there down with the AAA squad to get ready for the season because he's still a little behind rehabbing and all. So a lot to talk about with the Phillies, and the only place to go is right here, PHLY Network with the PHLY Phillies podcast with the crew. All right, Jared McCain. As soon as he checked in, they did it really well, as you pointed out. So Kyle was.
They didn't say anything until right as the game was starting.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really an opportunity for a big moment.
Yeah.
And, standing up. But we did see some people stand up and,
yes, we did.
Applaud. I don't know. We'll check in with Derek and see exactly whether we designated a standing ovation or not.
And some of the fan videos that came in and some of the media videos that came in, the ovation was loud.
Yes.
Now, was it some standing? The ovation was loud.
Yeah.
And then the first shot was loud. And then the second shot
was
loud.
Crushed Tyrese Maxey in particular. Look at that face. Tyrese is like, man, we had this guy on the team making threes
when
and
you
gave
watch
him up
it,
for draft picks that aren't helping this year.
So you see how Rico Hines is like leaned over watching the game? That's how Tyrese was leaned over watching the game.
Tell him how you feel, Tyrese.
Until the shot. Jared McCain was in shot motion going up. And as this shot was going up, Tyrese just leaned back like he was Homer Simpson in the bushes. I don't want Daryl Morey to see me react like this, but man, did you get it wrong. Jared McCain, the first two shots. Just talk about what you saw there.
Didn't end up being like a crazy.
Nah.
He goes 5 for 11. He's 3 of 7, and some of those came at the end when game's out of reach.
13 points.
In classic fashion, he's plus 19. So this idea that oh man, they can't afford to get him on the floor. It makes that a little bit of a tough look, but I think it went about as we expected, where he comes in, he plays he actually played more minutes than I think I anticipated, where he played 25 tonight with the full group. I think it helped that their business was mostly done after 3 quarters. And I would say, with all due respect to Campaign, that Jared played a bit better than he did tonight.
Yep.
And I think the frustrating thing for me watching this game, but also how Jared was used here, is all the things he did tonight are things that the Sixers could have done more of, like those dribble handoffs through the legs at the top of the key. Jared even gave an interview recently where he's like, I saw Joel doing that stuff with Tyrese and was like, hey,
cool.
that might work for me. And turns out it does work for you. Just happens to be on another team. So, yeah, I don't know if I have a ton to say on what he did. Good performance, not a great performance. I think you saw the ups and the downs. I think, frankly, one of the things I was surprised by, given that they traded him, and I think at least some of the impetus behind it was a lack of faith in his ability to hold up defensively. I don't think they attacked him enough. I don't think they went at him during his minutes quite enough, where I would have thought that's a matchup. If you want to run those plays for VJ where it's closer to switch hunting, ISO, forget everything else, just clear some space out, I think you just try to generate the McCain matchup, because he would have been the best matchup on the floor in almost all those possessions compared to Caruso, Jalen Williams even coming off in an injury, Aaron Wiggins, all these other guys. I would have taken my chances attacking McCain, but they didn't do that a whole heck of a lot. McCain did hold up well on a possession or two. So I think for all parties now we can just it's the best thing. He played well enough that people who were fired up about this are like, oh my God, look at McCain. And I don't know, when you score 13 points on 11 shots, the rest of us can be like, happy for Jared. He's playing well. Now it's time to move on. And we'll see who they draft with this pick because, by the way, we're keeping an eye on the scores tonight all around the league. The Bulls are in a barn burner with the Rockets with about 9 minutes left. The Rockets are down by 4 right now.
Oh, wow.
With 9 minutes left. So a Bulls win would do wonders for, well, maybe not wonders, but it'll help the Sixers draft pick they own through Houston. So keeping an eye on that one tonight. That might be over by the time show's over, so we'll see.
Yep. So Jared McCain, 13 points on the night, 3 made threes. For the former Sixer, and nice ovation overall from the Philly faithful as they really enjoy Jared McCain and really pointing their finger at the front office for making that move at the trade deadline. All right, when we come back, we'll continue with all of your comments as well. We'll go around the league to look at where the Sixers are in the standings based on what's happening tonight, including keeping an eye on the barn burner with the Chicago Bulls.
I'm pulling up the stream
and
right
the Houston
now. I
Rockets.
see this, man.
Also, your super
We're
chats.
on pick watch over here
as well. Sixers fall now.
Mara, come on down.
As we discuss the Sixers and the Thunder tonight from South Philadelphia.
You guys ever have one of those busy days where you're running all over the place, you're scrambling, you're like, oh man, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten yet. We have those all the time with our life covering the Sixers. That's where Wawa comes in. Super clutch because they're making your life so easy with $5 deals all day. It starts with the $5 big breakfast meal deal. You get any sizzly. I love the bacon, egg, and cheese on a croissant, a hash brown, and any coffee, hot or iced, any size. I love a large iced coffee. That's all for $5 from 5 to 11 a.m. And the deals keep coming after that for $5 all day. You get crispy or roasted chicken sandwiches at Wawa, created your way, starting at $5. They've even got new teriyaki recipes for a limited time. You could start your day strong and then finish it strong because it's real food and real value and built for your busy days. Limited time, exclusions apply. See Wawa.com for details. You guys know it. You got to have a Wawa.
Do you really want to see Tyrese Maxey diving in the stands for a loose ball? Heck no. Sometimes you do, but not really because you want to avoid any type of injury. You don't want to risk it, and that's what you want to do with your stars. You want them focused on what they do best, and that applies to your business as well. For small and mid-sized businesses, competing with bigger companies isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter, and with competition heating up, you can't afford to fall behind. AI, that goes way beyond ChatGPT, and it gets overwhelming pretty fast. Well, that's where Togo helps you out by streamlining your operations by handling customer service, accounting, order management, logistics, admin, data entry, and so much more. Every engagement starts with free process, mapping, and Togo doesn't bill a dime until the real work begins. Program starts as low as $1,000 a month and are built to scale without breaking the bank. That's scale without breaking the bank. Visit Harness Togo, that's TOGO.com, and mention PHLY for a free operational assessment. Back here on the PHLY Sixers postgame show as we keep track of what's going on out there in the NBA. A lot of games tonight. 10 games left, everybody, for the Sixers on the season. Chicago Bulls, Charlotte Hornets, and the Miami Heat, the next 3 for the Philadelphia 76ers. Davon, a.k.a. Schoolboy Beat, says, Dom with another
sextuple single, he says. And says he has not been good since the conversion.
Well, I think for me, and I know we're going to have a longer conversation at some point, is just in this role where he's the starting power forward for the Sixers, starting forward for them, ideally you want him coming off the bench as a front court player to add to whatever Bodner, Drummond, for right now, Bodner, Drummond, whoever else later on down the line at the backup center minutes of what you can get for him in that role. He has thrived for them this season, giving them much more than I'm sure they expected on a 2-way deal to get what he's gotten now as far as a standard contract. But in the end, the ideal spot for him is being the man in the 8-man rotation, maybe 10.
Yeah, I think his main problem is that his weaknesses, which is hard to say, he can't shoot those are amplified by playing next to Adem Bona and playing next to Andre Drummond, and also playing next to some of the twos and threes they're putting on the floor who are questionable shooters right now. When Barlow can play next to Embiid, and it's like Embiid, Barlow, a wing, VJ, and Maxey, that's where it's like, okay, he can be a fifth starter type. On this team right now, he's starting because he's still probably one of the best guys who is available.
Yeah.
But is playing, like, to Schoolboy's point, more of a 9th, 10th man in the rotation. Someone, hey, you might get something good tonight, or you might get nothing at all. I would also say tonight you give him a little bit of slack where he was doubtful yesterday coming into this game with an ankle sprain. I assume he's not feeling great, and that this was like, hey, if I can be available for everybody else, given all the other absences, that he's going to tough it out. But yeah, I do think he has largely been disappointing since he was converted off the two-way. I just think the context is I don't really care too much about how he looks in a starting role when the lineup is what it is right now. It's hard to make heads or tails of it. I think his success is going to be dependent on playing in lineups where there's just a lot more shooting and spacing and, frankly, just talent on the floor. So I hear your concerns, and I think we've talked about this a decent amount over the last couple weeks. But for the most part, I'm a wait and see on Barlow until they get guys back.
I think a lot of people in the chat agree with you, bringing up the fact that putting him in a tough position. Mello, my man, says Barlow needs Embiid, to your point. Theo says in any decent offense, Barlow would be better. We're not putting these dudes in position to win. It's hard for him to consistently sustain what we saw for an 82-game season when he's the only starter. He and VJ Edgecombe are the only starters left out there for this basketball team. You're asking a lot of him. And I think in his real role, everybody else out there, he'll be fine. And he still had moments where he's had 13, 15. The rebounding is what I think has really suffered, where in the beginning of the season, we've seen some really big rebounding nights. We haven't seen that as much, and that's also a big proponent of those players not being out there because he's able to get those 50-50 balls. He's able to get in there and jump in there and in traffic, get some of those rebounds, track the ball off the rim. He knows what he's doing. So I think all of that stuff will be better, though, when they're back in the lineup.
Yeah, and I think, like Theo points out, in a better offense, he'd be better, that he's not being put in a position to win or succeed. And like to an extent, I agree with that. I think Barlow, if you take advantage of his size and athleticism and use him more as a cutter, I think that's going to help him. Now, whether you are making the most of him at the cost of like even worse spacing is a fair question, right? Because teams are not going to guard him on the perimeter, but having him as an outlet out there might be better than he's just sitting in the dunker spot and guys can sit there and still defend him at the same time. There's a balance to be struck. But, yeah, I think if they could use him more as a screen setter, cutter, roller a little bit, because that's the other thing. Maybe you could toy with he'd be your short roll guy. Like he comes up and sets a screen. And if VJ or Maxey gets trapped, I think we like his playmaking ability at his size. He's not a Watford type passer, but is he at least like he'll make the right reads as a drop off or weak side corner if they cheat off of there. So maybe they could use him in that way. When he spends a lot of his time just kind of camped in the corner as a theoretical spacer, I don't think that's helping him. And frankly, I don't think it's helping the offense out a lot either.
Philly Love in the chat says, "What's up with Oubre? Haven't heard any updates on him from Nurse." Well, they were supposed to.
He's due for one this week.
Either time-wise, 2 weeks when they said the reevaluation. That's Tuesday or Wednesday. I believe it's Tuesday. So we'll see if we get any update over the next couple of days before the Bulls game. If not, hopefully, as Kyle said, sometime during the week.
Yep.
Tyrese Maxey is next week as far as the reevaluation process goes. And they'll be in single digits at that point in terms of games left on the season to where things are. So hopefully, also there was someone, I cannot remember because it was earlier in the show, just asking us, does Embiid want to play basically? And
I won't say who it was because they couldn't remember what my name was. They thought I was the other member of our show who's not here.
Yes.
And so
good point.
But yes, I believe Joel Embiid wants to play basketball.
I agree. I agree.
I suspect he'll play on Wednesday. Would be my guess. I think.
I hope so.
And Derek can provide more insight here. He was down at the arena, talked to Nick Nurse tonight. But from what we saw down there tonight, Joel went through a workout. He's expected to go through a more intense workout on tomorrow or Tuesday, depending on when you're watching this. And then obviously it's always about how does his body respond? How does he feel it? Shoot around on Wednesday. So it's touch and go. It's wait and see. It's the classic Joel Embiid experience, but that's what we know for now.
Yep. All right. Let's get to the around the league and the standings update, just in case.
A lot going on right now, Devon. A lot of crazy results here tonight, quite frankly.
So,
and I'm gonna be keeping an eye. I got Bulls Rockets up for us. The Bulls are slightly out in front with just 3.5 minutes to play.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes, they're holding on for now. Knock on wood.
All right. So let's forget about, at least for right now, 3 and 4. That's been pretty holding steady. It's been holding steady with the Detroit Pistons, Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, and the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially after the James Harden deal. They've held things together in Cleveland. So it's been the Toronto Raptors, Atlanta, Orlando, and the Sixers that have been trading spots from 5 on down. So right now, the Raptors, they are also playing tonight, and they are taking on this evening the Utah Jazz, currently up by 9. They're getting ready to head into halftime.
The Fighting Ace Bailey's
He
had a hell of a game on Saturday against the Sixers.
He
looked really good.
Yes, he did. So they're tied right now with the Atlanta Hawks in the standings, and that's 12.5 games back of first place. But more importantly, a game up on the Sixers, 1.5 up on the Orlando Magic, 2 up on the Miami Heat, and 2.5 up right now on the Charlotte Hornets, who in that order for them. So Miami lost to San Antonio tonight. Atlanta blew out Memphis. Not much of a surprise there. Milwaukee, we'll talk about them in just a minute. And we also have overall with the Toronto Raptors and the Chicago Bulls also, as we just keep an eye on them. So right now the Sixers remain in the play-in. They are tied with Orlando for the 7th spot. They're 8th right now currently because of tiebreaker. They have a half a game up on Miami because both teams lost tonight. Charlotte was idle. They are a 1.5 back of the Sixers, and the Sixers played the Charlotte Hornets on Saturday in Charlotte. The last time we saw that, they were down by 50 at one point.
That Hornets game is a big one.
In that game. And then they have Miami on Monday in Miami. So the Sixers still holding firm right now, where they didn't gain any ground, but they're not losing much ground despite this loss tonight. Orlando, Sixers, Miami, all lost. Toronto currently in action. Atlanta, the only of those teams that have won tonight. So that's the update and the standings for the Sixers in the Eastern Conference. 10 games left to play. We head now to the Xfinity Mobile Arena. Check in
baby.
On the Xfinity Mobile call-in line with Derek Bodner, who had the opportunity to see the OKC Thunder and Jared McCain. But first, Derek, it was a loss. But VJ Edgecombe continues to show some things, and these are things that we talked about that could be really important down the stretch here when the players do get back into the lineup. And whatever playoff situation that they are in, of all of this that he's learning from these situations of being the lead guy and how this could be helpful in the next 3 weeks, let's say, for the Sixers.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we all came into this one with expectations in check. This is a really tough opponent. Even when you're healthy, you're nowhere near healthy. You wanted to see them show fight, and you wanted to see something from VJ. And look, we've talked a lot over the last couple of weeks about how this might not be the right environment for him to really be efficient. But for him to come out here against this defense, a historically great defense with so few options around him. I mean, he was playing at times with 3-4 guys who could barely hold a dribble against this kind of defensive pressure. And he came out there and look, even if he wouldn't have made the shots that he made some, star level shots at various points throughout this game. Just going out there and having the confidence to launch 15 threes, having the confidence to be as aggressive, knowing that he had to be aggressive for them to even have a small chance of pulling out an upset. We've talked time and time again about how, it's one thing for him to have confidence. It's nothing for him to have as much confidence as he does, especially in aspects of his game that 12 months, 12 months ago, we weren't sure whether or not he was going to be able to. We thought the jumper was going to take a while. We thought him leading an offense was going to take a while. Him getting to his spots off the dribble was going to take a while. For him to come out there and be that confident and that comfortable doing it against a defense, that's this strong and with so little help around him, I don't care about the outcome of this game. And you just went through it. They didn't even really lose ground because they got a bunch of help around the league, but nobody was expecting a win in this one. I wanted to see something from VJ, and you saw a lot.
So, Derek, I'm going to ask you about a couple of things that are more insidery or locker room access. What was it like being down there for the Jared McCain experience tonight? I'm not sure if you saw Tyrese Maxey's reaction to his second three in a row, but from what we could hear and see on the broadcast, it seems he was received warmly, and obviously there was a lot of, daps and hugs between Jared and his teammates before and after the game.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can clearly see that there is a lot of love between him, and his former teammates. You could see how well respected he was. I mean, there was, interactions all game long. Probably the Lowry one, the most notable before the game, of those two embracing for quite a while. And he just has respect up and down that locker room, and you can see that. And you can see that with the fan base too. You saw a number of number 20 jerseys. To be clear, we're talking about Jared McCain, not campaign jerseys. You saw a bunch of McCain jerseys out. It's still wild that they gave that number out so quickly. You saw a bunch of jerseys in the stands. He got a really nice ovation when he came in. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't super long, but he got a nice, loud ovation. And I think it was handled pretty much well up and down, from the players to the coaches to the fans. He was certainly very well received.
What did you make of the video that you put out there about, when you meant coaching, Nick Nurse speaking pregame about Jared McCain, of how he felt like he was just about due for that 7-4-11 night?
I said to Devon, it's like LeBron being like, I knew Kobe was going to score 81 or whatever that night. All right, man.
Yeah. So there's both a little bit of a disconnect between okay, well then why didn't you keep
Big
him?
giddy three for the Bulls in the Rockets game, Derek. We're invested over here.
Good. But there's also a little bit of if you actually listen to Nick talk, it did seem like he was kind of pulling teeth a little bit to get those quotes. I'm not sure, look, Nick's got to say something positive in that moment. I'm sure he likes him as a person, but it wasn't exactly, I think the quotes probably come off as a more full-throated endorsement than maybe the tone did, which again, I'm not saying that Nick doesn't believe in Jared the person, but I'm not sure, they truly felt like he was going to play this well right after they traded for him. They probably, I'm not going to say they wouldn't trade him, but it would have factored in the trade a little bit more. I'm not sure I necessarily buy that they all thought he was going to rebound this quickly, this decisively, and play this well right afterwards. But look, I think for the most part, people appreciated Jared. Certainly, the part where Nick was talking about how, his work ethic and how he's in the locker room, I think that everyone, believes in and values. But yeah, it's no, we knew he was going to play well. Okay, but you traded him. It doesn't really connect all that well.
We're heading into overtime, everybody. Thanks on the television side. We'll see you on Tuesday, tomorrow at 3 p.m. here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. If you want to finish the remainder of the show, head on over to allphly.com. And after the show, go read Kyle's recap, also at allphly.com, to get the latest and the greatest on the Sixers basketball game.
Shout out my guy Buzelis with the big three to put the Bulls up 6 late in this game. We will be keeping an eye on that, as, that's an interesting item that just slid across my email. We'll talk about that after the show, Derek. So, any more information than the usual that we get regarding Joel Embiid for Wednesday? I know we're all expecting Paul to make his return. So any updates on Joel? And then with Paul, has there been any hint about minute restrictions or anything like that? Or is he just full go as soon as he's back?
If you actually go to our Twitter account, PHLY_Sixers, there's a video out there where Nurse is talking about all three, Tyrese, Joel, and Paul. In terms of Joel, he went through shoot around today, went through an individual workout after shoot around today. The Knicks said he's going to have a higher intensity workout tomorrow. and they will, make a determination after that. So it sounds like there's at least some thought, some optimism. He could be playing on Wednesday, but like I said, he has to go through that more intensive workout tomorrow before they will know that. Paul, no, he was specifically asked, he was specifically asked about a ramp. He's not expecting any complications from the ramp. When he's back, it sounds like he's going to be full go, which again, you would expect given the fact that this was a suspension, not an injury. He's been playing or practicing for the entire 25 games. He and Nick went out of his way to say, like, no, he's taking his conditioning very seriously. He's in good shape. He's been practicing. He's been running scout team. So he should be good to go. He should be a normal basketball player when he comes back on Wednesday. But as we know, nothing's ever really normal. Ever.
All right, Derek, before you go, we have to get this one from you. Kyle and I reacted and Bree during the game. Get your live reaction. You saw it already, but the Milwaukee Bucks waiving Cam Thomas just weeks after signing him. This is our post-game news and notes portion of the show. And doing so also
Buzelis,
so they can convert former
my
Sixer,
guy,
fired up Pete Nance.
Pete Nate. Yep. No, I mean, look, he came out. What do you have in like his second game? He had like 35, and like everyone was like, "Oh my God, how did the Sixers not sign this guy?" It's like because he's not really good at basketball outside of scoring. And look, he ended up, I think it was like marginally more efficient with the Bucks, and by that I mean he crossed the 40% threshold because he was, I think, in the 39% range with the Nets. Look. It's so funny that follow-up tweet that Shams had where they're like, oh, well, they thought he was going to help him, make a playoff run and he's going to be around next year. And the next, he's cut after 18 games. Yeah. Look, anyone who's been listening to the show knows that all three of us are not exactly Cam Thomas guys. And obviously with them falling out of the playoff race, maybe that changed a little bit, but he was never really going to help with the playoff race because he's a complete black hole in offense, who's an inefficient chucker, non-existent passer, and doesn't play defense. So just getting cut for Pete Nate is, for people who don't know, Pete Nate's kind of like a deep cut. Pete Nance is pretty wild.
Interesting place to be for Cam Thomas now. Kyle mentioned it, can't be on a playoff roster now, and it's just.
Oh, and that is so important because we would have gotten inundated with requests to sign him. Yes. The Sixers got to add him. They need bench scoring. Cannot do it. Not playoff eligible. Leave us alone.
Yep. All right, that'll do it. Derek Bodner joining us on the Xfinity Mobile call-in line from the Xfinity Mobile Arena, and we'll see him tomorrow here in the Xfinity studios here for a 3 p.m. show where all four of us will be back together on Tuesday.
I'll see you in Camden first, apparently, Derek.
Uh-oh. There you go.
Yeah.
There you
grumble,
go.
Grumble. Sounds good. See you guys.
All right,
Get home
man.
safely.
Be safe getting home. Derek Bodner joining us, and we'll check in with him tomorrow here on the show. Sounds like there's some practice tomorrow.
No, there is not. There is another event happening. I'll talk to you about it after we're out of here. I'm not sure it's for public consumption. We'll see.
All right. Well, there you go. That's that. And what's the update on the game?
Bulls are going to win.
Okay.
Kevin Durant was going crazy the entire fourth quarter.
See, he has 40.
Yeah, 40. I believe he's got 15 in the fourth.
Triple-double from Şengün. He's got 33.
He put somebody, I don't know who it was because I'm half watching it. He put somebody on a poster. It was ridiculous. But Bulls are up 5 after a Buzelis bucket with 9 seconds left. So barring a historic collapse here in the final seconds.
I mean, I check in on the CHGO Bulls, and check in on Big Dave and Peck and all those guys. Buzelis becoming a three-point shooter. We talk about the elevation of VJ in year 1, but year 2 for Buzelis was your guy for like breakout star, of the year. And that three-point shot, that's huge for him. He could already put the ball on the floor and put it on the deck and get to the basket, but the three's falling for him now. Yeah. That's a big development for him.
You get some more talent on it. Ime Udoka just got a tech coming out of the timeout,
like
by
the
way. So
they knew they were going to lose.
This is also when at the beginning of the year when I had I think the Rockets could be a play-in team.
Yeah.
They're just such a he actually got ejected from the game.
Game's over.
So they're just such a volatile group of people. Like Ime, great defensive guy, but also a little bit of an insane person.
Yeah. Shout out Nia Long.
Cade, certainly. Shout out to Nia Long. KD, all-time great talent, also the all-time weirdo guy in terms of the great athletes. We're not going to get into our Durant debate. No. It's not the time or the place.
Because I agree with you on that a little bit.
But I don't know. It's just so we'll be following the Rockets very closely the rest of the way because of that first-round pick. So that's one thing, whether you like the McCain trade or hated the McCain trade, it's one thing we can all rally around is just to hope that the Rockets suck.
Because it doesn't change
because
now.
It helps the Sixers.
Exactly, right.
And it makes that pick better. It gives us a little something to think about and say, hey, that would be nice if they're able to get something nicer with that.
Where were they before this game? 23?
They're 23, I believe. Okay. Yeah, Minnesota and Denver are tied at 21st at 44 and 28. This will put the Rockets at 43 and 28. So I believe that will jump them ahead of those guys, and they'll be at 21st pending their game in hand that they'll have to play. And then Toronto is the next level at 20. They have 31 losses. So.
Saw some Corey Carr love in there with the guards because we haven't talked about him.
We have not talked about guards at all because
except for Isaiah Evans. Derek brought him
up. And I feel like we might have mentioned in passing like a Bennett Sturtz if he falls.
We did. You did mention him.
Yeah, he's somebody. But I think
for the most part we went wings and big men.
Wings, forwards, bigs. Like anybody who's 6'7" and up. Let's talk about them because there are plenty of them. And I do think, too, one of the things I would take away from this year, because Joel came back and played well, but you still went through the experience that you went through. If you can get a real guy at like pick 20, pick 22, who could potentially be a long-term starter or someone with that type of upside as a big, I would very deeply consider that at this point. And I got to say, Mara has looked really good in this tournament. I know we talked about him already. A lot of the guys we talked about are actually making it through to the Sweet 16, and so that gives us more opportunity to watch some of them.
Hurt his ankle in the first 3 minutes of the game.
That was such a bummer when Jefferson went down, man. And they've still been playing. They've been lights out so far, so just imagine him.
The shooter, I forgot his name, but they could use that as well with some decent size. So right now, Sixers at 21, and Koa Pete, who we also just mentioned a little bit. Right now,
I mean, all the Michigan guys, because that team looks like they're on a potential mission to get to the Final Four. So you have probably 3 guys that could go in the first round between Yaxel, Amara, and Merez Johnson. All I think have a chance to get drafted. Kareem Lopez just declared today. I'll be honest, from what I saw of him, I didn't love him, but
we'll have to talk to Matt again.
He played in New Zealand. It's me trying to evaluate tape in New Zealand is like,
we got the plug. Matt Walsh. We got it,
This is true.
He told us then.
And then there are other guys, and we'll get to him eventually, but like I wonder if they would be willing to take someone like Acquaintance from Kentucky who had the ACL, didn't play most of this year, and just was not healthy, who still has been considered a lottery guy, but he could be the guy who I think falls, and you just say, do you want to take the talent bet on this kid?
Maybe put
2 years removed from the injury. Yeah. I don't think that this is the franchise to be taking bets on the injury people. Give me somebody who's healthy, can shoot and rebound,
I can't
and I'll
wait
take
for
it.
Elijah Arenas conversation then, boy.
God.
Gilbert in Philadelphia as the dad?
No.
Oh, man.
No. Can't do it.
Also, Chris Sinak, who we also talked about as a 6'11" guy that's really, really talented. So a lot of names and a lot of time to still discuss that, but we're on Houston Rockets watch because of the Jared McCain trade and the pick. Speaking of picks, let's get to the Bet365 pick segment presented by Bet365. The Bet Tracker is what we're calling it here. And 1-3 because I lost by 1 steal or block from VJ Edgecombe. He had 1. Jared McCain hit the 3 threes.
The points bet
I got caught on the hook.
Easy money.
I got caught on the hook. And Bree also got caught on the hook because Chet missed a double-double by 1 rebound. Chet Holmgren, because of that whole wave of cycling in the players that they do over there. So 1-3 for me. Kyle's sitting pretty there with the just the dash.
Not applicable.
And Derek on Saturday with Paul Hudrick. Shout out Paul Hudrick. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again to Paul for stepping in.
Because we all needed some time off. Derek's 0 for 1. And I don't know if he's going to make a pick again, so that's just going to stay right there for Derek.
Oh, for history.
So you can take the 1 off, and he can now have the 0 graphic like I have from the last time, Derek Bodner. All right, that'll do it for us. We are back tomorrow, Tuesday, 3 p.m. We have an idea of what we're going to talk about tomorrow. We will do that. If you want to know, you got to join us at 3 p.m. here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Until then, let's make sure we do the world famous good night roll call.
That's right. First of all, shout out to our guy Schoolboy with a super chat
What up,
tonight.
Davon?
Thank you, Davon, for checking in. Thank you to everybody else who was here. If you could, there's still a lot of you in here. Hit the thumbs up button on the way out of here. Because that would make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. It also helps out the show, the channel, all the people who work here. We have a lot of wonderful people at PHLY, like super producer Bree, who's always here, working no matter what, making the whole thing go. Thank you to Bree. Thank you to all of you, like Rookie Rook, 727 Raphael, Philly Love, Hedfa, Sigma, Philly Shad, Reardon, Jim Life 79.
What up, Jimmy?
Ray Need, Sir Schmooey, Phil W, who I will
Phil.
say by name, even though he kept calling me Derek throughout the show.
That was Phil?
That was Phil. I was very disappointed in Phil. He said, Derek and Devon, answer this question for me. Well, Derek's not here, Phil.
Didn't realize
I
that was
am.
Phil.
You're stuck with me.
Yeah.
And you should know that. I'm a little offended.
I'm offended too.
Derek invites
Philly,
that comparison, but you know, I'm just messing around. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Sovereign Redemption, Vincent James, David, Positive CVX, Marty Bones, Rodham, Chris Blaylock, D. Craig, I. Gavini, Kyle P., Freddie Powell. You better love somebody.
Love somebody.
T. Burrell, A.W. Conti, Marcus Blackstock, Theo, X-Man, Jesse Bond, Kyle Wright, Jay the Jungle, A. Ron. Here was the name of the night for me. Beer Battered Gummy Shark. Beer Battered Gummy Shark.
Interesting.
In the building.
Just
noticed Caden Carlin, Schoolboy, again. The Clarity Network is here.
Got some clarity on that draft pick with the Bulls winning tonight.
Lost Sleep TV, Terry Hayden, Jazz Graham, my girl Nona, Val, Jess, Arizona Ron,
Jazzy,
Mellow 3 Point,
hey, ladies.
Flyers, of course. Thank you, everybody who was in here tonight. If I didn't get to you, it's not because I don't like you. Kyle P., I saw. It's just because there are a lot of you in here. It's hard to read names at this speed.
And we're not complaining.
I did grow up at the Derek Zoolander School or Center for kids who can't read good. But I'm doing my best. We're all doing our best around here on the way out. Hit that thumbs up button because it helps out the show, the channel, and the world even. But also hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. If you like the show, if you like us, you want to come back, you want to know when the show's on, we'll be back here at 3 p.m. tomorrow to talk about, I think, Paul George and some other stuff. Jimmy J in the house, by the way.
Jimmy Jam.
Until next time, stay safe, take care of each other. Goodbye, everyone.
See ya.
We all silly.